With D&D having recently ended their crossover with Magic the Gathering, this still does not mean that we don't have awesome creatures to add to our commander decks and just decks in general, because we do, with the Magic the Gathering and D&D crossover bringing us tons of iconic monsters from Dungeons & Dragons. And at least to my knowledge, there are two different sets for the Magic the Gathering and D&D crossover, this being Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and Battle of Baldur's Gate. And with this being a strictly monster-oriented video, I think we should start off with Dungeons & Dragons' most iconic monster, the Red Dragon. This specific Red Dragon is a 6-mana summoner. It is a 4/4, and it has flying, fire breath, and when Red Dragon enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent it faces in combat. Pretty nice. The artwork for this particular card is pretty badass too. We see the titular Red Dragon skulking around what looks like a volcanic area, and it's silhouetted by mountains and fog and smoke everywhere, and a little bit of ashes, and we see the glowing, fiery eyes of the Red Dragon staring down some kind of prey that we unfortunately cannot see in this artwork. But yeah, this definitely depicts the very frightening prospect of facing one of these guys in battle. But it doesn't end here, because it seems like Magic the Gathering really wanted to sell a bunch of Red Dragons for the crossover with Wrathful Red Dragon. This is a 5-mana summoner, and it is a 5/5. It has flying. Whenever a dragon creature you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target creature that isn't a dragon. Something I like about the artwork here is that we just get to see how menacing the Red Dragon is, and we really carry that over from the previous Red Dragon card we took a look at, where we just see the scale of this colossal dragon as it's getting ready to unleash its fire on the soldiers who, according to the flavor text, have stolen its treasures and are begging for forgiveness. With their spear and their bow and arrow out, they are about to be destroyed in the most violent of ways possible for their crimes against this particular dragon. And next up, we have Chaos Dragon. Chaos Dragon is a 3-mana summoner and has flying and haste. Haste means that this dragon can attack right away without summoning sickness. The Chaos Dragon attacks each combat if able. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, each player rolls a d20, Dungeons & Dragons dice. Now this is something I really think is awesome, because it actually makes the Dungeons & Dragons dice part of the gameplay for this particular card in the crossover. If one or more opponents had the highest result, Chaos Dragon can't attack those players, or planeswalkers they control this combat. It's also a 4/4 card. The Chaos Dragon in the artwork is pretty cool. We see a very beat up red dragon. Its wings are all tattered, its scales are all ruffled, and its horns are all bent out of place. It's getting ready to unleash some fire on this little village or civilization it seems to be destroying. And I don't think the reason why the dragon is beat up is because it's been attacked, or it might also be because of that, but because this dragon just loves to sow chaos, hence the name. It loves to create destruction and famine wherever it goes. So it's a pretty vicious and terrifying dragon, to say the least. Next up, we have Bullet. Bullet is a 4-mana summoner, and its creature class is a beast. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, put a 1/1 counter on Bullet. Capable of moving swiftly through even tightly packed earth and leaping surprising distances above the ground, bullets are difficult to escape once they've caught scent of prey. I gotta say, this particular creature design for the bullet here is pretty cool. It reminds me of some kind of like whale thing, just because of the way the face is, and like a mole with the long claws it has, designed surely for digging through the earth at really fast speeds, but it is bursting out of the earth, Horses are screaming in terror and being sent flying. People are armed with their weapons, and there are even people being flung from their horses because of the force of this attack. There are bits of the earth and sand being flown into the air. This is a terrifying scene, and it even looks like the bullet is getting ready to bite down on this poor horse that's in front of it. And now we've arrived at my favorite of the D&D monsters, the Mimic. The Mimic has 3 cards, technically. One of them is just a alternate art of the existing Mimic card. The Mimic is a 2-mana summoner and is classified as an artifact treasure. The sacrifice of the Mimic adds 1 mana of any color to your deck, and if you use the second option on the card, Mimic becomes a shapeshifter with a cost of 2 mana, and the creature with base power and toughness of 3/3 until end of turn. And the other Mimic card is pretty much the same stuff. It's just sacrifice a Mimic to get mana, or use 2 mana to make Mimic into a creature, basically to bring it to life. And then we have Dire Mimic. The Dire Mimic is the same classification as the regular Mimic. It's an artifact treasure, but it has flash this time. Sacrifice Dire Mimic to add 1 mana of any color, and Dire Mimic becomes a shapeshifter artifact creature with base power and toughness of 5/5 until end of turn. Sometimes the monster is the closet. Pretty cool. So I love these cards. In fact, I have all 3 of them just because I love Mimic so much, and it's just really cool. Each of these cards has unique art, and the Mimic we get to see in 2 different forms. We get to see it in its treasure chest form, and we get to see it in its closet form. Pretty cool. Alright, so for the art of these 3 cards, we see the Mimic here in the main card right there, with its tongue out and its teeth are baring, and we can see its many eyes. It has just eaten somebody by the looks of it. There are a severed leg and many bones on the floor, and we can see it in this chamber or dungeon, wherever this Mimic is hanging out. We see somebody has just walked in, and it's really unclear if they've noticed the Mimic, because the Mimic is like alive here. Like, it's not hiding, it's alive. And so the person is looking straight at it, so I'm assuming that this person has like noticed the Mimic, or maybe the Mimic has just eaten their friend, who knows. But pretty creepy looking. The next art here is the one that I really don't like. It's a kind of just this old timey drawing style. We see the Mimic card with the teeth out, and this Mimic only has 2 eyes and sharp teeth, and we can see a lot more of like the Mimic slime, because that's what the Mimic is. We can see little bits coming out of tentacles and stuff. It's pretty cool, I guess, but I still think it's really ugly. And then the next one we have here is the Dire Mimic. The Dire Mimic is just set alone in this room with its teeth showing. It's got many eyes, and the clothes in it, I guess, make up its tongue, which is like hanging towards the floor. But interesting that this Mimic is just in a like room with nothing in it. Maybe anybody that used to live in this house that the Mimic is being held in has left because of the Mimic. Mimics are known to be ravenously hungry, so both of these drawings capture the more eerie aesthetic of that. A guy walking in on his friend just having been killed, and an empty house probably fled because of the Mimic's intrusion. Owlbear Cub is next, and it is a 3-mana summoner. It is a bird bear, and it is a 3/3. Mama's Coming. Whenever Owlbear Cub attacks a player who controls 8 or more lands, look at your top 8 cards of your library. You may put a creature card among them onto the battlefield, tapped, and attacking that player, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Owlbear Cub's pretty cool. He looks cute. He or she looks cute, actually, because I'm not gonna, I'm not that guy, okay? It could be a girl, it could be a guy, who knows? Anyway, it's sitting there underneath like a stump, like a hollowed out stump. There's like what looks like armor, some kind of armor bracelet or something next to it. And it's in the rain. It looks unhappy, or it might just be, just normal because, this owls usually look like they're angry. But it's sitting there, just chilling. There's like a little piece of armor next to it. There's some gravel on the ground, and you can see the stump. The stump actually has a hollow area where the actual owl bear seems to be just kind of getting shelter from the rain while it waits for its mama to come. But pretty cool and pretty cute. The artwork on this is pretty nice, even with like the splashlets of mud just kind of splashing up against this owlbear. Next up, we have the adult owlbear, simply referred to as owlbear. It is a 5-mana summoner. It has trample and keen senses. When owlbear enters the battlefield, draw a card. This is also a 4/4. It's pretty cool. The art for this is really nice. We have a full-grown owlbear just chilling. I like the orangish black fur on the back of its head and shoulders. It looks really cool, like some nice spiky fur. And it has these same spiky kind of orangey fur on its forearms. It's got like a little birdie tail, and it's got these big, broad, powerful bear claws and arms with the face. This one also looks angry, so I'm assuming that just all of the owlbears look like they want to throw down. And they're pretty powerful looking too. This one's just kind of got its claws out. It's looking directly at you. It's in a lush forest. There's some moss and rocks on the ground, and then some mossy trees. Looks really cool. The bear is just, I guess, enjoying nature, and it looks awesome. It looks pretty cool. And I heard that this guy was actually going to be in the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, so I can't wait to see what this guy gets up to. The Displacer Beast is a 3-mana summoner and is a 3/2 cat beast. When Displacer Beast enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon. Enter the first room or advance to the next room. Displacement is a really interesting spell as it costs 3 colorless mana and 1 blue mana. Return it to the owner's hand, and I gotta say, the titular Displacer Beast in this image is pretty horrifying. It looks like a cat-like creature, only this one is not a cat you'd want to cuddle or play with. It's very scary looking. Its teeth are jutting out. It's got a majority of tentacles coming out of its back. It's got 6 legs. It's got a long tail. It appears to be standing in this kind of ruin. Really interesting stuff. I like the effect that they use to really give it that it's displaced from reality. It's phasing in and out. And then the ghostly blue kind of light emanating in the foreground really adds to the eerie aesthetic that this particular card seems to be going for. Gelatinous Cube is a 4-mana summoner, ooze creature class with Engulf. When Gelatinous Cube enters the battlefield, exile target non-ooze creature and opponent controls until Gelatinous Cube leaves the battlefield. Dissolve. Put target creature card with mana cost X exiled with Gelatinous Cube into its owner's hand. Gelatinous Cube's artwork is pretty dark to say the least. We see the titular cube of slime as it's engulfing this poor man as he desperately tries to reach for freedom, much to no avail. He is slowly being overtaken by this ooze and is about to meet the same fate as the 2 bodies within the ooze. They seem to be kind of just decomposing skeletons from its previous meal. So this guy is literally going to be trapped inside of this ooze and then be dissolved into nothing but bones and a bit of tattered flesh, which is a pretty dark thing to imagine. And lastly, we have arrived the same way we arrived at the beginning of this video, but at the end, with another equally as iconic monster to Dungeons & Dragons Red Dragon. We have the Beholder. This particular Beholder is Xander the Guild Kingpin. He is a 6-mana summoner, and he's a 56 legendary creature Beholder. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose a target opponent until the end of turn. that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of their library anytime, and you may pay that mana cost the same way you would casting other spells this way. Alright, so the artwork for this is really cool, and actually I'm surprised that they were able to fit such a hectic scene on a small card. So we have a beholder here. This is obviously the Kingpin beholder that we talked about earlier. He's in some kind of store. He's licking his lips. He's got like a squinty eye going on, and he's surrounded by various artifacts and treasure and stuff. So I'm assuming this is in some kind of marketplace or store. There's some lights hanging from the ceiling, and there are various characters walking around. And so, yeah, I'd say this is some kind of store. He's probably selling illegal artifacts because he is a kingpin. He's a crime lord. So that means that the beholders are quite intelligent if they're able to create their own criminal underworld. But pretty cool. Really awesome stuff here. But that pretty much brings an end to this very long video. Just talking about some of the various monster creature cards we have from the Magic the Gathering / Dungeons and Dragons crossover. Lots of awesome and iconic monsters made appearances in the crossover, and let me know if I missed anything, because if I did, then definitely I'll make a part 2 with some of the creatures I missed. But I think this pretty much rounds up most of the creatures that appeared in the Magic the Gathering / Dungeons and Dragons crossover. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Do take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.